Well, as you well know, consistency is accuracy in a muzzle loader. And in our muzzle loading lineup, everything that we utilize today is very consistent with high tolerances. But when you're on the range, there's a few very important things that you need to consider, and that is consistent loading of your projectile. At the end of the day, it's going to mean how accurate your projectile is on the paper. So we have a brand new product in our lineup that I'm very proud to introduce you to. This is the CVA Ultimate Range Rod. This is a stainless steel range rod with a handle that is full of ball bearings, so there is no resistance on the face of the projectile when you're loading it down the barrel. It also comes with 2 loading and cleaning jags, so you can load with these jags and also use them to clean with your patches at the end of the range day. This one here on the right is 45 caliber. This one here is 50 caliber specific, and the face of these are designed specifically to load every projectile on the market today, especially the new high BC bullets that we make in our PowerBelt lineup that we call the ELR Series. If you notice, they have a very long ogive or taper on the front of the bullet, which sometimes makes them difficult to load. But these cleaning and loading jags that goes on the Ultimate Range Rod is specifically designed for those long high BC bullets that are on the market today. So a couple cool features about this guy here. Number one, it's a stainless steel rod, so it's very stiff, rigid, and anti-corrosion. But if you notice here, this piece here is a bore guide. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to center up the range rod as you're pushing the projectile down the bore. That way that your range rod is not pushing or has different leverage on the face of the projectile as you're loading it. So it keeps this here very centered, keeps the projectile centered as it goes down next to your powder. And if you have spent time behind muzzleloaders, you know that you probably have heard or have seen us talk about how important it is to index your ramrod. And typically when you have a ramrod that is on the gunge or a range rod, once you figure out your optimum load for your muzzleloader, you typically take a pocket knife or a screwdriver and mark your range rod or ramrod so that you know that you have. There's 2 reasons actually. Number one, know that you have the projectile seated all the way against the powder, which is utmost for safety in hunting and using a muzzleloader, but also to verify that you don't have a double load in your gun. So if you're using a regular ramrod, a score mark or an index mark has always been very important. But with this here, the range rod, the Ultimate Range Rod, we designed a jam nut system here at the back so this actually can slide, so you can utilize this for multiple different muzzleloaders, multiple different loads, and not have a score mark that gets confusing when you start using different muzzleloaders in particular. But this guy here, you can slide it down, say this is our optimum depth that we have in this particular Acura Series muzzleloader. You can actually put your jam nut in, tighten it up, and then slide that down. That way that you know that you're seated properly all the time. But I also mentioned and talked about that consistency is accuracy in a muzzleloader. And when I say that is, so this here is a safety feature, but also allows us to know that when we push our projectile against our powder charge, that we have the same amount of seating pressure every time. And every time means it's very consistent. We have a stainless steel rod that is very rigid. We have 2 cleaning jags for 45 and 50. We have a bore guide to keep the range rod centered of the bore and consistent even pressure on the face of your projectile, and also jam nuts for proper seating depth every time and over a course or different muzzleloaders that you utilize. So this Ultimate Range Rod is very adaptable to every gun that you utilize on the range, and also ball bearings in the end to make sure that when you're pushing that projectile down, you're actually not scoring the face, because you got to remember, when you're pushing your projectile down the barrel, it's spinning with the riflings or the grooves and lands, and typically most range rods do not spin, so it's actually grinding a line on the face of your projectile. And this range rod here does not do that with this ball bearing assembly that's in the handle. So very proud to introduce the Ultimate Range Rod by CVA.